This Nick Fuentes is blowing up on the internet, and I'm seeing him a lot on my feed. And it's an interesting debate that's going on about whether or not it's prudent to platform him. Now, he says some outlandish stuff, a lot of taboo subjects. He says black people are inferior. He's always against the Jews. He hates immigrants and non white people. He wants a white ethno state. And he's a very articulate and intelligent guy who is charismatic and uh, appealing to a certain demographic. Now, of course, I don't agree with all of his views, and a lot of them are quite offensive. And but I would urge people on the opposite side of his views to actually debate him, because if you don't debate him and try to cancel him, what's going to happen is that he's going to get bigger. He's going to get a mystery about him. There's going to be more of an interest of what there's going to be more people wanting to know why he's being cancelled. And if you don't have the opposite view, and his views are viewed in an echo chamber with limited opposition, what's going to happen is that you're going to expand his base, and that's dangerous. So while he's on the rise as it is, there needs to come up some people, skilled debaters, not just mediocre people who won't push back. People like Mehdi Hassan, who are very good at speaking, and there are a lot of people, Brianna Joy Gray. These are people who are intelligent and can match up to someone like Nick Fuentes. This is just an opportunity to debunk his a lot of his ludicrous views. Well, now, for instance, he wants a white ethno state, and ignoring the obvious, you don't live in a white ethno state. America is a mixed pot. It's a majority white country, and actually, if you dig deep and see the definition of white, a lot of those white people are actually Hispanic that um, are classified as white. So the truly white people, like the Nordic, Germanic types, um, I think I could be wrong. They could be less than 50% of the United States, but I could be wrong. So America is becoming less and less a white country. It was a majority white country, and even then, when it was a majority white country, there was black people. There was people from the Hispanics who were there, who were there before Texas was a part of the United States, before California was taken from Mexico. I think was it California that was taken from Mexico. All those people who were not part of the United States, who were indigenous to that area, are, are, are not part of Nick Fuentes' worldview. So that in itself defies the logic that he uses to push his views, which is realism. He says he's a race realist, but he's only a realist in certain areas that push forward his argument. He's not a realist when he's coming in, when we consider the demographics of current America, and he's not a realist considering that the world is changing, and it has always been changing for thousands and thousands of years. So for you to stick to an era where you feel like that fits your ideal worldview is kind of childish. It's kind of like Peter Pan syndrome, whereby you don't want to accept the changing of the world. You want to stay as a child. You want the world to always be the way you want it to be, and you cannot accept change. You cannot accept progression. To you, change is wrong. To you, change is difficult, and that type of thinking is what drives people like Nick Fuentes, whereby when they see change, they see a negative thing. And obviously, sometimes change it does mean things sometimes get worse, but that's at the point where you are, because sometimes things get worse before they get become better. This has happened over and over throughout history, even with America. There was a time when they were like, okay, we need Britain back as a colony. We cannot leave like this. When Britain was a colony, no, as a colonial master, I mean, when Britain was our master, we were having better things. We were having access. We had protection. We had military protection. We had services, this and that. People were complaining at that point, but because they were going through terrible times, this happened with the Israelites biblically. Since Nick Fuentes thinks he's a Christian, the Israelites, when they were leaving the Egypt, they complained to Moses and they said, "We were better under Pharaoh. We're not starving under Pharaoh. Even though we were slaves, things were better." There are people even in Africa who complain and say that the colonial times were better because they're going through hard times. So change is inevitable. That's what people like Nick Fuentes don't understand, that change is inevitable. It's a part of life. There's going to be changes. So this happened to the Native Americans in North America, whereby the colonial forces came over and took over their land. That was a change to their way of life, a devastating change, a catastrophic change, actually, considering what happened to them. Now, it's a bit hypocritical to think you're a race realist and you fail to see the realism of change. So, this type of a person only advances arguments to suit the narrative that they're trying to progress. So, a skilled debater will see through these tricks of pushing forward these arguments, but and counter them. So I would advise against canceling someone like that, because you leave him to grow his audience in an echo chamber. And when he's growing his audience, a lot of his audience are naive, a lot of low IQ people who just listen like sheeps and they don't dig deeper. They don't hear the other side and they stay confirming their bias. I don't do that. I listen to people like Nick Fuentes because I want to hear why he thinks like that. And then I listen to the opposite side because I want to see why. What is the counterbalance? Because the truth is somewhere in the middle. So if you want to find the truth and you don't want to confirm your bias, you listen to both sides. So now, to attempt to cancel a person like Nick Fuentes in this day and age where social media is now in everyone's pocket, the truth is access to the truth is in everyone's pocket. So people can Google anything unless you're in China, of course, whereby there's so many firewalls that prevent you from seeing the truth. But in general, people have access to things that the system does not want you to see. So if you try to block a person like that, you only give him more power. Now, it's to me it's pretty easy to debunk all of his what he's saying, because it's kind of like a flat Earth theory. You, it's kind of like the flat Earth theory. What is it? Conspiracy. It's ludicrous, but if you don't have the right arguments to debate that person and the right information, you don't come across as having defeated that argument. Like you a lot of people who 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 make the argument that black people are less intelligent and inferior, they've never actually lived with black people, and they point to Africa. They will give you a portion of Africa that looks quite horrible to a first world person, and then they will not actually show the developed parts of Africa. Now, as an African who comes from Africa, I know for a fact that I once lived, for instance, in South Africa, where South African, at one point, the internet in South Africa was better than the internet in America. South Africa is everything that you need, that you can find in a first world country. It has slums, it has poor neighborhoods, it has some failing infrastructure in many places, but if you if you get the right kind of government, within 10 years it can be like a developed country with the perfect, if someone runs it perfectly, it can be like a developed country. But of course, it's a very corrupt country. It has a lot of problems going on at the moment. So the point is, a lot of people will not see those good parts of Africa. They will not understand how people in Africa live, and they have this very narrow view of how the world is. So those people are vulnerable to people like Nick Fuentes, because they don't really have the capacity to dig deeper, or they don't have the time. Sometimes it's not about even being smart enough to dig deep, it's about time. You don't have the time. You're not as addicted to the internet. You just have time for a clip. You just have time for this one influencer. You just have time for one ideology in your mind. So there's a lot of people like that, and to fight against that, just platform the guy. Just give him a chance to say all the nonsense that he says, and then make an example out of him verbally. Because definitely, I know if he gets someone like Mehdi Hassan, he had a very brilliant outing on Jubilee, where he was facing like 20 far right people. And he just dismantled them because he's so good. He's such a talented speaker that when he's faced with someone like Nick Fuentes, he's going to just do short work of him. So now the fear is that the fear, the fear is actually racist, because if you fear you're platforming, if you fear platforming someone like that, we will expose uncomfortable truths. Well, that means you actually believe what he's saying. And if what he's saying is actually the truth, then we shouldn't be hiding from the truth, right? We shouldn't be hiding from the truth. It doesn't make sense to hide from what is true. So if you're comfortable with your ideology, you should be able to defend it in the marketplace of ideas. Now, he also has, it's not only racial what he says, it's also a lot to do with the Jews. So the Jews, since our the Jewish people are very influential in the world. So he says a lot of nasty stuff about them. I've heard it, and I kind of don't. It lacks evidence. It lacks evidence. Like if you say Jews control the world, you can be right, but not in the way that you think you're right, because they can control the world in the same way that we can say that white people control the world. White people control the world, but there's no nefarious cabal plotting in a dark room somewhere. No, it's just that they have better systems. They have built up those systems over a long time, and those systems compete better than other systems, than the Chinese systems. And Africans don't have strong systems. Africa is full of corruption, and there's no culture of systematic learning that is inbuilt into the African people, and they are coming from colonization. So to build up that foundational system of the whole society knowing what to do, it takes. I think it will take 100 years. So all these other nations, they've been doing it for hundreds of years. So you have to understand that. So you have to understand that the same with the Jews. They have better systems. They have better systems of networking. They've their system of they value education, and education is power. So if you educate your child, they're more likely to have a better job. They're more likely to, and they value money because they understand that money is power. So are there some bad Jews? Yeah, there are bad Jews and bad people with every group throughout the world. With There's bad Africans, there's bad Chinese. Every group has got bad elements within them. So unfortunately, if you have this history like the Jews do, your bad people get amplified more than the other people, and it doesn't make any their case gets worse with what's happening in Gaza. People don't want to see kids get blown up. People don't want to see suffering civilians, and that has been horrible for their case. So that in itself, without what he's spewing, is just anti-Semitism with which has no real evidence. So what I'm saying is that if you get someone who is on the opposite view of that, who can challenge him with evidence, those views become diluted, and then he will fizzle out within a couple of years, just like all the other Nazis did. The ideology is wrong, it's hateful, and it's a dwindling ideology, which has the last kicks of a dying horse. But for it to completely die out, it needs to be challenged. And in this day and age, with new kids getting smartphones and kids always seeking the most viral taboo views, you need to just challenge them with a strong debate. That's it.